Give us any chance, we'll take it. Read us any rule, we'll break it. We're gonna make our dreams come true.
Welcome to Night After Night, a podcast about 8 seasons in a row. I am Lisa Fernandes, and
I'm Christopher Jayawardena. Hello.
we're going to do the first episode of the second season of the series, which is Drive, She Said. I'm going to talk a little bit about what's changed between 2 seasons as we enter into this new one, just so everybody can be prepared for the various changes we're going to be encountering as time goes on.
Wait, you mean time moves forward? It doesn't stay... I thought it was supposed to stay in the 50s. I thought we were supposed to just remain there eternally.
Wait till we hit the time skip in season 5. That's all I'm going to have to say.
Oh, God, I'm so terrified of change. I don't know if I'm going to be able to take it. But please go on.
They actually skip a bunch of years between season 5 and season 6. Penny Marshall mentioned that in those Foundation interviews. And she said they completely skipped the Kennedy assassination. She didn't know why. So, all of a sudden they were in miniskirts out of the blue. Well, as everybody knows, the show concluded its first season with a major high note. It left the mid-season of 1976 on May 18th, the third most popular show in America. It would enter its second season a mere 4.5 months later on September 28th as the second most popular program in the country, trailing only its sister show Happy Days in the ratings. The show's boom period would bring a lot of changes onto the sets, onto the actors playing these characters, and onto the writing team. There would be a lot of conflicts between the actors and the writers as time would go on, and the show became bigger, and everything became a little bit more messy and a little bit more complicated. Gary Marshall says in his autobiography that the Happy Days cast used to put the water glasses. They would take water glasses, put them against the wall of the set, and listen to everybody argue on the Laverne Shirley set during the season. And many
So apparently
others.
it's depending. So that means that it's not just hurry up and wait, which is often what they say is, what it's like being an actor, but it's hurry up, wait, and take in a show.
Yep. And they were the floor show, sadly. And there was equal derision on the side of the Laverne Shirley cast, mild derision, fond derision, I'm going to say. David says in the A&E biography on the show that they used to call the Happy Days cast the Stepford actors on the Laverne Shirley sets.
Oh, that's well, that one stings a bit.
Yeah. The merchandising wagon starts rolling with this season. A lot of different firma enters into the pop culture because the show is getting bigger. We get tie-in novels, we get dolls, and most interestingly, Penny and Cindy are signed to record an album, which is eventually entitled Laverne Shirley Sing, recorded during the summer hiatus, and it came out in November of that year. We're going to cover that when we hit Citizen Crane later in the season, and we're also going to promote the deep dive that we did on the album on Twitter in the foot of this podcast. So if you want to know a little bit more about that, that's coming up. We also have a tier on our Patreon where if you want us to review these albums, this and Lenny and the Squidtones album, give us some cash. We're going to do it for you. Speaking of music, this is the year the show's theme song became a top 30 hit on the Billboard chart. It peaked at 25 the week of July 4th, between the show's first and second season, obviously. And it made it to 21 on Cashbox's Hot 100 singles listing. On the adult contemporary chart, it did even bigger numbers. It peaked at 13 and made it to 16 in Canada. The theme song, Making Our Dreams Come True, was written by Oscar and Grammy-winning duo Charles Fox and Norman Gimbel. The two of them are known for something very, very interesting, and I bet you don't know what that is, Chris.
You lost me. The names are somewhat familiar, so maybe this will take me by surprise and be like, oh, but no, please do go on, do tell. I am a little child.
Aside from writing the Happy Days theme song, and a lot of other theme songs, like the Wonder Woman theme song, they wrote Roberta Flack's Killing Me Softly.
Really?
Yes, they did. It was inspired by a story told of them by another singer-songwriter about how moved she was at a Don McLean show. And that's what the song is about. Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. But that's what they were doing before and after this. They're very, very, very well known in the field of writing television music, in writing Oscar-winning scores, and in writing popular songs. So this voice you hear singing at the top of every single program is Cindy Greco's. Greco was an unknown young singer when she was plucked from obscurity to sing this song. She produced a follow-up album, which was a disco record that didn't go anywhere. So this remains her only top 30 hits. Quick fun fact, the backing vocals on this track were provided by the Ron Hicklin Singers, and David Foster plays the keyboards on this song.
Yeah.
Yeah. The version you hear at the top of the podcast every week was performed by the legendary Johnny Cash and was recorded for a Nissan Altima commercial in 1997. We use it because we just like Johnny Cash. That's why we're using it.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah. If when in doubt, Men in Black.
Yeah. When in doubt, Men in Black. There are two important cast changes which occur during the second season. By the fourth episode, the girls' landlady, Mrs. Havenworth, is replaced by Edna Babish, a savvy, sassy, 5-time divorcee who will eventually become their mother figure in many ways. Essaying the role is Betty Garrett, star of stage and screen. And there's a fun fact about this. Betty got to name her character, and she picked Edna because Edna is a fun comedy name.
That's awesome. I did not know that. That's wonderful. And it's a great choice.
Yeah, I love that, too. I love Betty anyway. She's great. She was great. Rest in peace.
Mm-hmm.
But she's fabulous. Also added to the show is the character of Rosie Greenbaum, a member of the girls' childhood social club, the Angora Debs. In contrast to the girls, Rosie is married up into proctology, and she is now a rich woman. Yeah, she's now a rich woman who doesn't mind flaunting her wealth. She and Laverne have an intense adversarial relationship, which will develop and temper throughout the next few seasons. The role is played by Carol Ida White. Sorry?
Yeah, I was just going to quickly say about Rosie. So she married a proctologist and is got lots of money. I guess she has to deal with some crap, but she has to. She's doing well for herself.
As she eventually says, as you know, my Ogden, he had to live the dream. My Ogden had to live the dream.
That's right. Yeah, but yes, but yeah. So she's played by a face that's a little familiar to us, right?
Yes, Carol Ida White. She first appeared in last season's The Dating Slump. That's one of the tough girls with whom Laverne brawls. We also see some interesting beats that are repeated for these characters throughout the series. Laverne drinks her first glass of milk and Pepsi in this season, and Shirley begins writing her end-of-episode entries in her diary. The show's opening credits actually shifted a little between seasons, which I also thought was interesting. You have a lot of little insert shots that become kind of classic callbacks, like Laverne dumping the pizza. Not the pizza. Laverne dumping the beer over the side of the arm of the counter at the pizza bowl. The girls dancing and Carmine stepping on Shirley's foot. There's a lot of new little insert shots. Did you have any favorites among those?
The snowball fight was definitely one of my favorites. Oh gosh, I'm trying to think. There was one that really popped out at me. Edna coming in and Shirley with the baseball bat, and how Shirley is like, it's like, no, it's totally fine. And I'm thinking, Shirley, Cheryl, honey, you nearly smacked a woman in the head with a baseball bat.
It's just one of those classic sitcom opening credit moments.
Exactly. Especially with the laugh and smile in it. It's like you're just waiting for the freeze frame and an actor card, to come up. Oh, okay. I take it back. I just remember what my absolute favorite one is. Them on the steps with the rain is my favorite.
Yes, I was going to mention that one. That's my favorite, actually. I love that. Well, then they're just standing there kind of dreamy after being just getting soaked in rain.
God.
And they did retain some stuff from season 1. Which is interesting. The credits will evolve again in season 3. Basically stay the same up to season 5. They refilm some bits, which is pretty unnecessary because in the next season they moved to LA and they had to redo the whole sequence. And then it gets refurbished one more time for season 8 for reasons that we'll get to. Season 8. And that's the evolution of the credits, the opening credits.
Nice.
You'll notice, slowly but surely, bit by bit, season by season, the boys will creep closer and closer to the opening credits. Closer and closer to the opening credits. They get a picture and title card by, I think, season 3. Then they get full credits of their names by season 6, I think.
Nice.
Yeah. Slow evolution towards the front of the pack, so to speak.
Yeah, yes. I guess time changes everything.
Yes, indeed. That brings us to Drive, She Said, which is directed by Howard Storm and written by Jack Winter, and I believe Chris has some facts about them.
Yeah, so director Howard Storm was also the Once Upon a Rumor directing. So he ended up working on a lot of sitcoms, including 59 episodes of Mork and Mindy. And
Wow.
and as we mentioned earlier, he also was the director of Once Bitten with Jim Carrey way back in the ye old 80s. Yeah, so so that was a cool thing to find out and realize as I was going digging a little deeper. And when it comes to Jack Winter, he would write 2 more episodes for Laverne and Shirley, and also end up directing 5 episodes during the 6th and 7th seasons.
Yes. We'll get there. We will get
Yeah.
there. Now, this is what happens during the episode. Thanks to Carmine's new relationship with a rich divorcee named Lucille Lockwash, Shirley is able to secure a sweet deal on a Pontiac convertible, $200 for the entire car. One problem with said bargain, she only has $100 and change in her savings. When they pay it off, she needs Laverne to go halfsies on it with her. Laverne reluctantly gives her best friend the money, but she has only one problem with the entire situation. She does not know how to drive a car. She's afraid to do so. Shirley decides to help Laverne learn, leading to hijinks. Will Laverne ever learn how to drive? So what do you think of this one?
Oh, this was adorable. I love that straight out the gate, the physical comedy is just constant zamming you.
Yeah.
You know, from the yoink of the through the door, and poor Laverne getting dragged with all of her shopping in her hands, and the tempo is just kind of moves faster because to compensate. The whole driving lesson scene on the back lot is just incredible. It's at times kind of dangerous. I know there's some people involved, but even with that, there's definitely some hairy moments in that. That's like, oh, okay, that was a little intense. And I love, oh God, the bit with the boys on the bicycle following them behind is just adorable. And just, God, this is a really strong, it's a very fun start. It's not as much of a poignant, kind of well-rounded start to the season, but it shows they've made these huge leaps, just the rhythms coming together, the writing's a little tighter, the directing's tighter. They really, I think, have sort of refined what they liked about the show initially and what they liked doing with the show and what audiences liked with the show. And so they've really have kind of just zeroed in on those elements and just kind of cranked them up a bit. So it's a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this one.
Well, here's 2 interesting facts. The girls did most of their own stunts. I think that was actually them doing the majority of that stunt work. They definitely do way more severe things to their bodies as we go further into the series. The other thing is that Penny specifically requested from Gary that they start doing more physical comedy because she felt like they were really good at it and the little bits that they got to do in the first season. So that's how the show became more of a physical comedy show. She herself said that it wasn't originally created that way, but they decided to go heavier and heavier into it because that's what worked best for them.
Yeah, and it shows. They really because of that. I think that desire to do it and to go for it. I think it definitely it translates into they're gung ho about it and they want to do it and they enjoy it, and because if you enjoy it enough, you're going to really put the effort in, I think is what I'm getting at, because the effort really shows. It's definitely one of the ones where it's definitely more into absurdist comedy, but it has these wonderful little gags that I think, as you mentioned before about how like certain elements become like sort of things you remember, these memorable little bits like the milk and Pepsi, the diary entries, and just the whole like the cans, the corn and the plums and then the beans, and it's like, should we use the beans for gas? And it is hysterical. And those sort of just like all the energy is just is cranked up, and so it's and then thematically I really also enjoy that it's kind of a cute story that even though I find it unfortunate that Laverne is being made fun of for being scared to drive because we've both have driven. I mean, I don't have my license, but I had a learner's permit 10 years ago, and I just needed to. I just didn't make the work to get the license, but but part of it is that it's kind of terrifying, especially when you're first doing it, and so it's like and I like that I love that she conquers her fear, and I love poor Pop having to do
that she was driving the total incoherence because he absolutely doesn't know how to express how much she is frustrated though. And it's so great. My mom was actually afraid to drive, so I
Oh.
could relate to what Laverne was going through here a lot. But yeah, as you mentioned, this is the first time Milk and Pepsi and the diary entries enter into canon. This becomes a big character points where you go, this is what they do, this is who they are.
Mm-hmm.
As we get deeper in the series, it'll keep coming up. Yep.
And that follows, and that's also followed up in this succeeding episode, I think, as well, right? We're going to see this come back?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Repeatedly throughout the series.
Nice.
I think all the way through into season 8, especially with the Milk and Pepsi, that was obviously something from Penny's real life. She wanted to have Pepsi after milk, and her mom would sometimes not completely wash the glass out unless she got a taste for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, I've not gonna lie, I've done that. It works best with root beer though, because you almost kind of get yourself a root beer, kind of a pseudo root beer float in the process.
I think
Really nice.
I think everyone has tried Milk and Pepsi after watching this show. It tastes like a Coke float. That's what it tastes like. That's all it tastes like to me. Like
All right, yeah,
everybody has done that.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
I mean, I would prefer a Coke float just because there's more sugar in it, but yeah.
And plus ice cream. You can get different flavors of ice cream.
Oh my God, ice cream! Yes.
I love ice cream so much. But anyway.
But yeah, back on track. Yeah, and it's just it's delightful to just see how the cast is synergizing, and as you're saying, I think because each of them finds a little bit more of their niche here.
Yeah.
They're kind of a little less of the, and we're seeing it start to get better in the last 5-10 episodes of season 1. Is that they're getting much more kind of comfortable in the roles. They're getting more refined about it. And I think especially seeing people's reactions to it on the air, and maybe getting to watch some of the episodes back themselves, being able to see okay, now I understand what's working. Because I think there's a certain element you have to sort of study your work to refine it. Yeah, and it works really well. I even just like the subtle things. I love the delivery of the back and forth with Michael and David, where they're talking about it's it's like we know how to drive. We drive well. We drive trucks. Yeah, 19-wheelers, 18-wheelers. Yeah, I was counting the spare. God, that line kill. I have that. I had that line rolling in my head for days afterwards, especially because of that delivery. And this is where it really you see it start to kick into gear. How was this for you?
I love this episode. It's not my absolute favorite of the whole series, but there's a lot of beautiful classic moments in it. And the girls going to the window and screaming out each other's secrets.
Oh my God.
Straight outside until the boys burst in and start complaining that they're ruining their nice quiet orgy. So
oh great, we're gonna have to put an explicit warning on this episode again, aren't we?
Well, we didn't swear, so that's different.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
I was gonna say, but yeah, I love that exchange because it gets more and more ridiculous and more revealing. You start with Shirley's middle name being revealed here, which is Wilhelmina, and she's embarrassed by that. And you end with Laverne shouting that she stuffs socks into her bra.
Oh gosh. Yep.
At the top of her lungs.
Yeah, I rewatched these with my mom the other day, and she loved the back and forth, and and she laughed at the different the expressions, the smugness in Laverne's face. Oh, gosh,
that's some good acting. That is fun as heck, and then they try to make it up by Shirley yelling, "Laverne DeFazio's got guts!"
Mm-hmm.
And outside the window,
doesn't stop my socks in a bra anymore.
The anymore sells it so beautifully. Yeah. I just love all the little details and how Laverne just conquers it. All the little character bits, like the boys making out with two girls in the back seat and in the front seat of their car, apparently having a lie that the convertible belongs to them.
Right. And I mean, I could just imagine that to them. It was A, they were lying about the car, and B, it was probably just like, we need a place to make out. All right, well, that looks like a comfier spot. And I mean, hey, if you're going to make out with two girls, you don't want to bring them up to your bunk beds. I mean, that's just embarrassing.
No, Squiggy does do that later in the series. The boys do this later in the series. Oh, so it's fun.
I mean, it just... being snuggling up in bed just always is kind of like it feels like an awkward thing. Doing it in bunk beds, just all that wood, there's so many more ways. Like if anything slips or you need to readjust your position or you want to stretch, it's like bonk. Because I had a bunk bed when I was a kid, so it's I've been there.
Yeah. Just think of how tall Lenny is, and imagine how comfortable that is for him.
Ugh.
And I don't.
Oh God! So that means so it's either his head's hanging off the back, or off the top, or his feet, he's like his calves are just like right off the edge.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Poor Lenny.
And those are children's bunk beds.
Mm-hmm.
Those are children's bunk beds. They came from the Brady Bunch set.
Gosh, yeah, I would not.
Remind you that they came from the Brady Bunch set.
And I wouldn't doubt, like, if we want to get into deep lore discussion, that probably is like one of their two sets. The bunk beds that belonged to one of them when they were growing up, and that they would have would have sleepovers all the time with each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It had to have been Squiggy's because Lenny had no money growing up, like none, and we'll get into that and how sad that is later on in the series.
Oh boy.
But yeah, no, we're gonna have feelings. Feelings are gonna happen. But anyway, this is the first time that we see Lucille Lockwash, and Carmine has a new girlfriend after being in love with someone else last season.
Yeah.
Someone else and Shirley, mind you. So how'd you feel about Lucille? How'd you feel about the relationship?
Oh God, I feel like she's in some ways like the stereotype of what would be like considered, especially like in those old pulpy books. She's a broad of the 1950s. It's a good gag. Like, I mean, as much as Carmine, this is where it's really stretching. Do I like Carmine? Do I hate Carmine? It's like, but at the same time, it's also like, I have to give her, it's a good joke, and I have to give her credit that, hey, if she wants a boy toy, all the more power to her. Yeah. It's just, why does Carmine have to fall for that shit? That's all it is. It's like, why?
Well, he's blatantly using her for money.
Oh, yeah.
He's blatantly using her for trips and money, so he's basically being gigolo.
Yeah, I mean that was entirely what my my mother said about that was, it just blurted out of her, just all of a sudden, when we're watching the scene, it's like gigolo.
Your mom's the best.
But it's so I mean but I will say it's like the actor, she's really leading into the role well. She's got the voice, she's got the body language, the outfit's cute. This almost idea she might be like a widower, or she was like a gold digger that hit it big early, and so she's got money, she's having her fun. Oh my God, Carmine though, I have angry thoughts. He's just such a jerk right out the gate. Just why?
Yeah.
I was just gonna simply say because I know there are fans of with you've expressed to me that I should be polite, and I will be, but
we're heading to material. I have a lot of mixed feelings about Carmine too. Like they'll do some great things, some wonderful things. He'll be very good to Shirley. She'll give him crap on her side of the fence too eventually as we go deeper in the series. But sometimes he'll just do things, and he doesn't need to do things.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a perfect way to put it. And exactly. Like he gives Shirley first pick. He helps hold on to the car for a couple of days, which, those are considerate. Those are considerate things. He is trying to support her, having her independence and things like that, these are all positive. Yeah. But it's like, oh God. Yeah.
Yeah. You want to root for him, and eventually you will at some point, and then you'll root against him, and then you'll root for him again. That's how the show goes. Mm-hmm. But, he is a complicated... It always depends for me upon how he's treating Shirley. Yeah. In a scene. To me, it's like, how is he treating Shirley, and how does she react to the way he's treating her? Right. So, yeah. Right. If she's, doesn't care, I won't care. If she cares, I'm like, he needs to be quiet now. Mm-hmm. So that's what I think. Yeah, between episodes recordings, I have a note on my list, and I'm of like my immediate reaction of what I typed up, and I'll let you know when we get to that point. But yeah, it's a case of definitely Carmine's the one character out of this show that gets very choice words out of me. We're gonna get to some interesting times as this goes on. Oh boy, very interesting times. But that said, I mean, it's there's some good, I mean, as we're saying, like I think he is a complicated character. It's weird to me because I was thinking about earlier today. I was thinking about the Wild Bunch,
And yes, I know, movie tangent, Sam Peckinpah, but I'm just thinking, there are Peckinpah movie characters that I have less ambiguous feelings about than I do Carmine,
Yeah.
or I guess less conflicted. Like those are characters that even though they're complicated, but I still kind of understand them. And Carmine's the kind of
Yeah.
character that almost like I almost kind of feel like if I was to say was told, okay, you're going to reboot Laverne and Shirley, is I would probably either make him a little more altruistic or at the very least make his complicated aspects a little more understandable and make him as a personality a little more consistent. And because the thing that's weird about him is that he can be very compassionate and then incredibly selfish, and that's the thing that gets me in the way that he's used in this episode.
Yeah, that's exactly him. That's him to a T. My reboot would be a side boot. That's just like my little feeling on what I would do.
Right.
We get more Norman this episode.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I can't believe I forgot to have a note about Norman. It was so wonderful to see him again. I mean, he was a little manipulative, but it was still cute.
Yeah. Pistol orientation. She didn't go with it.
Hey, I mean,
he had to pay the ticket anyway, so.
Yeah. I mean, I got to say, though, hey, pistol orientation's fun. I took a gun safety class when I was 13. It was great.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
I mean, firearms are dangerous, and, you should always respect that they're dangerous and terrifying, and you should be scared of them at all times. But, I mean, come on, Laverne, you missed out on a good thing.
I think it's interesting how she doesn't want to do the cop stuff with him.
Yeah, I think
she doesn't want to do his cop stuff,
right?
But she likes that kind of cop stuff. It's interesting,
right?
To me.
But I love though. It's the again, his performance is great here. It's a wonderful character actor performance, and it again reminds me. I wish that this actor had gotten more work. He's so good. I love him so much as this character.
Same. He ends up he was doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes, as you know, for the show. He was a story editor throughout the first and second season, and I think a little deeper into the season. But yeah, he was so talented and so good. Shout out to Bo. Man's talented as heck. Or was.
Yep.
Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, it would have been and now I was just think of his name Bo. Now I just wish that he'd somehow ended up as being the Milwaukee cop that ends up in a one of those Gator movies with Burt Reynolds, and him and Bo Hopkins got to have an argument.
That would be great. Oh gosh. Burt Reynolds in the 70s. What can I say?
But anyway, so getting back to the focus of the plot, there was one thing I did have a bit of a note for that I thought was interesting about this episode, and we'll get to the ranking about this a bit, because it was.
Yes.
I found it a tad anticlimactic, and in a very sitcom sort of way, in that we see Laverne conquer her fear off camera, and and I do think the message of the story is positive, especially because there is indeed, it's having to go between these two places, and it's primarily a Shirley focused episode. So I understand that it has to focus on her, and then and so seeing Laverne overcome the fear would have been putting too much of the focus on her. But it kind of reminded me of, going back to my 90s kid, past, there was that episode of Nickelodeon's Doug where Judy is trying to learn how to drive, and she can't parallel park.
Yeah.
And I love that moment getting to be, seen. You get to see that moment and get to see her succeed. And I kind of wish we had that at the same time in this episode. Well, also it being a case of focus and time, and etc. And it does at least allow us to not know until we see Frank how well did it go, and see him just and it's the wheel and the thing, and it's like then put the parking brake on. I put the wheels away from the curb on the slope, and that'll happen, Pop. It's okay. So it's kind of a nitpick in some respects, but it's something that kind of like, it was like, because I guess also just for me vicariously, I would have loved to have seen someone overcome their own fears of driving and succeed, because I still gotta get my learner's permit back and give it another go.
You can do it. You'll get there.
Yeah,
you'll accomplish it. I got faith. I was going to say that it was probably compressed for time. Because if you look at the show, you look at the episode and how they kind of balanced it, it's pretty decently balanced. But there's a lot in the front end about how she's afraid and then building up to the lesson and the lesson's doing horribly. Ultimately, the lesson is for Shirley that she can't like fix absolutely everything.
That's a good point. Yep.
That Laverne has to take the weight of her own problems onto her own shoulders and accomplish it for herself, in a way. And she does, kind of, with her father helping her, but she does kind of do that. So, in the end, that's kind of the message. Both that she needed to let go and let her learn how to do it her own way, and both that Laverne had to buckle down and stop being afraid and just go for it. Yeah, so that was a message. Go for. I love, this is the first time that we learn that Laverne is afraid of anything, and she is one tough cookie. Meanwhile, the boys are just out there just spilling out their own phobias. And interestingly enough, they mention that Lenny's afraid of heights, and then later on in the series, he falls off the roof multiple times in the apartment building.
Oh, geez.
This is actual canon. That's actual canon. And then he falls out of a window and breaks his leg. That's the whole episode. Anyway, but I liked that, they're all afraid of different things, in a way. They're becoming more rounded out, more human, as the characters develop into people that you're watching every single week and change every single week. So, I thought it was pretty neat.
Yeah. It is good. Okay, so I guess if we've covered all that we can regarding the episode and the contents therein, what would you say is your ranking on our 1 to 10 scale?
It's an 8 for me. This is a solid 8. I could do without everybody mocking her about being afraid to drive, because it's kind of understandable to be afraid to drive. But otherwise, everything about it is great. There's a lot of classic bits in it, like the shouting out the window bit and driving bit, the boys tailgating them, and God only knows why that's a good idea. That's Lenny and Squiggy logic. So,
oh, certainly,
a lot of great stuff in there. There's a lot of great stuff in this episode. A lot of good, solid messages about staying on the path and trying, to overcome your fears. That sometimes you can't fix everything for the person you love, but you can at least, try to help. And I like this one. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's also like it's a different type of if you love them, let them go. Let them go do the thing because they have to do it for themselves.
Yes.
I probably would give this more like a 7.5. Partly because of the same, the notch down, I think is for the same reasons you mentioned. I just think the way that they, the humiliation thing was just kind of like, oh man.
Yeah.
And as much as I love the scene with them at the window, it is a little cringy for me. So it kind of takes things down a notch. But yeah, I mean, for all the same reasons, I still enjoy so much about this. And as much as, I'll give Carmine crap, especially when it comes to the Lucille thing. I also love to hate him for it. So there is that. But yeah, it's incredibly cute. There's some great lines, some wonderful setups. And I have to say, as a starter to season 2, this is a great beginning. It's really fresh. And I can imagine this doing excellent numbers when it aired.
Definitely did. The show is only on an upward trajectory. It'll become the #1 series in America next season and the season after that. So we're all on an upward climb here. Upward climb till things happen. That's all. I guess that's all for this episode then.
Nice. Cool. So, all right. Well, I guess everyone, thank you so much for joining us for our first episode of season 2 of Laverne and Shirley and Night After Night podcast. If you would like to know more, please join us on social media. We are on Twitter. We're also on Facebook. We have a Tumblr page, and we have a Patreon, which has got some little kind of reward goodies. So once we hit a certain goal, we'll start doing bonus episodes for this show. And so you can find us on most of these places at Night After Night Pod or Night Af Night PC on Twitter, because Twitter doesn't like long screen names, which I guess understandable with the character limits and all that,
Yeah.
efficiency and all of that sort of things and all that sort of such. But yeah, so again, thank you so much for joining us. And Lisa, what are we doing next? What's the next one?
Next week, Laverne tries to charm the writer upstairs she has a crush on by becoming a candy striper. This is Angels of Mercy.
And we're sure this is not secretly a Roger Corman nurse picture.
Definitely not, because even the 70s on television, you could not do that or anything close to that.
Okay. Well, I'll still be in for it anyway. But excellent. Good times ahead. Thanks again, everybody.
Bye now.